No, yeah.
This is gonna be a very interesting stream. I love it.
Oh wait, you're on? We're on?
Yeah.
We live?
Hello.
Are we live and alive?
We're live and alive. Keyboards in the shot. I think that's my favorite part.
I love that.
It looks like a
That's
table.
I will.
yeah, it's kind of cool.
It's
You
not-
don't want to get, okay.
Yeah. So I think it's perfect.
That actually is perfectly fine.
That's screw it, it's fine.
And the most comfortable seat.
I guess we should welcome everybody, huh?
Welcome everybody to the Alternative Blacks 2023. Oh, this is your job.
No, I was like really intrigued because you never introed the
I actually
show.
really think Jonathan should do it.
Welcome to the Blacks Podcast Online. Here first, our new intro. Welcome everybody to the Alternative Blacks. The Alternatives.
The Moderna Blacks podcast.
Welcome to the Alternative Blacks Podcast. This is our holiday episode, is what I decided to call it.
Ah, the holiday.
Yeah,
You're a seat for
whole
it.
name for it. Exactly, and we have some special guests with us today. Before we go around introducing everybody, I forgot the can across the way. So we're going to talk about this lager that we're drinking from two locals real quick to intro the show. It's called Lofa Lager, named after the birthplace of the two locals that brewed it. Lofa County, Liberia. Lofa Lager is our no-frills, easy-going, go-to beer, which we choose after a day's work for a day on the beach or watching the game with family and friends. Two locals will be opening any day because they're opening in December 2023.
That's exactly 3 days left.
Yeah,
So they'll be opening soon. So
yeah.
let's all cheers to the 2023. We'll hope 2024 is also good to us as well.
So you guys.
We'll go around and give our thoughts on the beer. That's a little bit of silence that I like.
Exquisite mouth.
So it's mouth. Ew.
It's wet.
It's wet.
It is wet.
That's a good word for beer. I don't mind it. It's like an elevated Miller High Life.
Yeah.
Damn, son. Don't.
I didn't know.
Okay, you said high life. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, the High Life is good.
right, and that's not a dig. That's it's a good, easy drinking beer, and
It's very soft. Very
Yeah.
soft.
as light as
This is
it's
like the upper middle class Miller High.
Ooh.
Ooh, I like that.
It's
So
good 'cause
would
I
Miller
drink
High Life be lower class? Lower
Kinda.
middle?
A little.
This is disrespectful.
Don't talk about me here.
No, this is good. Yeah, I agree with everyone, but it's from two locals, so it's much better.
It's much better than good. If you had to give it a rating out of 5, working in 5, what would you give this?
You were very specific about quarter increments.
Yes.
I like quarter increments. I give it a 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's very solid and strong. It's very soft. I usually like things that are lighter. And I agree with you. I wouldn't want to go lighter than this.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm at 3.75. It's a very good rating for a beer.
Don't worry about that. We're so good.
Okay.
Just can't see what we do.
I'm going for it's. I could drink a lot of this.
I think that's what I like about it, is I could pound this.
Drinkability.
Yeah.
Drinkability 5, yeah.
Drinkability is 5. Yeah, it is. I would also give us a 4. As you know, I think we've kind of both adopted the fact that if they hit the mark on what they're trying to do, it's probably just a 4
Mm-hmm.
at minimum. And I think this does exactly that.
Yeah, I think they did exactly what they
said. I'm so sorry.
I've been doing that all freaking day.
I think that brings it up to a 4.25.
That's a 4.
I would give it a 4 as well. It's solid. They didn't miss the mark.
You guys are red.
This is great. All right, so for anyone watching, you know us. This is Chris. I'm Tyler. We are your hosts for Alternative Blacks Podcast. But we brought some guests with us today, and I'm going to start over here with Hannah. Let her introduce herself as I grab our second beer for the day.
That's it.
Yep.
Hannah.
No other information needed.
Yeah.
one of the driving forces behind the collaboration for Barrel and Flow.
This is true.
Woo! I said, I have nothing else to add.
Hi, I'm Jonathan. I met Tyler across the way. We studied just kidding. My name is Jonathan. I went to
Oxford.
yes, with Sir Cunningham. No. Sir. Grew up with these knuckleheads.
Love this more, honey.
Oh, my turn. My name's Harry. I've known these two for what, 25 years now?
Hell yeah.
Long time viewer of the show. Long time supporter and spirit.
Yeah. Supporter, long time snappy commenter.
Yeah, if you see somebody in the comments, it's Harry.
Sometimes.
Oh damn, are we supposed to comment on how we know you? I know them.
You can
I'm aware of their existence.
I was one of them.
we'll leave this down.
Don't just shut.
Yeah. So we all grew up in Reading, so that's definitely we all grew up in Reading, so that's definitely the way that we know each other. Got to know each other a lot more, especially when we all were in high school. But we also all have lived in different areas of the country now. Hannah, you've been all over the place.
Been a few places,
Yeah.
yes.
Most recently New York, now you're down in Philly with
In the country.
somebody. You're in the Lancaster area now. I'm in Philly. Jonathan's in Chicago, but you've done some traveling as well. And Harry is down in Virginia.
Southeast Virginia. Hampton Roads area.
Yeah. So the whole point of today's episode really is to kind of talk about what different experiences we've had in the craft beer community pertaining to, outside of the Reading area. More specifically, where you spent like a good amount of time. So we're going to talk a little bit about New York. We're going to talk about a little bit of Chicago, a little bit about your experience down in Virginia, and then obviously we're going to talk a little bit more Pennsylvania because that's what kind of brings us all together. With that being said, this beer that we are drinking is Half Acre. So we're going to talk about Chicago first. This is a Czech Dock lager. It's from Boston. This is your cousin from Boston. Continental series. It doesn't give me much other information besides Czech Dock dark lager, 5.1%. So we're gonna drink this, rate it, and then we'll get into what craft beer looks like in Chicago.
Shaggy. This is nice. I think it hits the notes. I would
I smell
probably
I did.
go.
I smelled a little smoke when I first opened it too.
I have a little milk.
I think right now I'm at a 3.75. I think I would want this to be a touch puncher. And so 3.75.
Okay. 3.75.
I'd go 3.5.
Wow. 3.75 is like respectable. Anything below.
Okay, that's good to know.
I mean, that's my rule.
That makes sense. 3.2. No, I'm just kidding. Half Acre we love. No, I for me it's just a little too smoky, but it's also personal preference. So that's playing a huge part. It's a little too smoky for me.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't want a dark lager.
I
but
think
like-
it's not smoky.
For what you're expecting, right? So he would not like it at all.
Yeah.
But for you, you're like, I like this and I want Lebanon bologna smoky.
There we go.
I would say Lebanon blend.
I always think
That's
of
smoky
things like that.
What about you, Harry?
I'm gonna go for it. This is if I want a dark beer that's not like if I want something that's like a dark beer that's not super dark or not super boozy, this is I think something I would go for.
Yeah.
So yeah, this would be a 4.
I thoroughly agree with the style choice. Dark lagers.
And for it being a dark lager too, I think a lot of people look at stouts, look at like porters, look at like these things that are like a lot heavier and harder to drink a lot of at one time. And I think for that being said, I could drink a good amount of these. I don't know if I want to,
Yeah.
but I could.
This is sitting at 5% still, so it's
Drinkable.
drinkable.
I'm gonna give it a 4 too.
4.
Yeah, but I like the style of beer, to your point.
Mm.
And I think it's like a very light style of it. to enjoy. Like it wasn't what I was expecting reading in the label.
So quick question, how many people have been to Chicago? Alright. I just wanted to when we were talking about the different areas, maybe just give a little bit of an insight for who's talking from what kind of perspective.
Yes.
So, kind of looking at Chicago and your experience out there, tell us a little bit about how long you've been in Chicago and what you have noticed about craft beer in Chicago.
So I've been in Chicago for about 7 years now, going on 8. For me, it's a little trickier because I was not a beer drinker until only a few years ago. So when I first started, I remember telling you first came to visit me, I was like, I only know a few places here and there. And then I started really getting into drinking more beers and stuff. And that's when I found my favorite brewery in Chicago is hands down Dovetail. Lagers, Kolsch style beers, great.
German, traditional beer.
Done well.
And I also got to go to there's another place called Ravinia that's on the west side. That's also really good. We went to Revolution Brewing.
Yeah, I love them.
And so
They're actually next to us at the festival.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's right.
And there's I just realized there was such a huge community and very distinct tastes too. So it became more, and now I started to understand why you guys got really excited about beer. I was like, okay, it's fine. But when you really started trying more, you really get the nuanced tastes of it. And there's so much in Chicago, so I'm really excited that I got to try more, and I'm getting to try more local beers and stuff too. I'm learning.
Appreciating with that knowledge.
Yeah, and also new ones are popping up too. There's a new one by a comedy place I work by, and I want to check that one out too. So it's growing. It's continuously growing.
Yeah, and to bring it back to New York, really, other half who seemingly always says we're not expanding, always finds themselves to be in new places, and will be popping up in Chicago as well.
Oh, nice.
And so that's just I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they take New York and the other places that they have been and bringing that kind of style to Chicago, but how they also absorb the culture of Chicago as well and bring some of that.
Yeah.
One thing I like about Chicago is it does feel like there's, no matter what neighborhood you're in, there is a brewery within reach somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, we've been out recently to Chicago.
Yeah, and of course, I don't remember anything.
Well, what sticks out to you about Chicago breweries? Is there anything, or is
I can't speak for breweries, right?
Mhm.
Because I can probably count the number on, the both hands. But I would have come, if you wouldn't have said anything about Dovetail, I would have mentioned Dovetail.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the breweries, the few that I've been to, they are renowned for something and they do that thing really well,
Very well,
right? And
yeah.
using Dovetail as the example, they do the German beers very well, right? And they don't try to stray away from it. They're core to that identity, right? Even in the merch that they offer, things like that. So I think that they're just kind of a testament to hey, we like this thing, that's what we're gonna offer. People, if they like it, they will come, right? And find success from there. There was one that we went to recently by the theater, and I can't remember the name of it at all, but that was also pretty nice too. But Dovetail seems to be the most memorable thing for me.
Leader by the theater.
Here by the theater.
Yeah, I think what I enjoy is it seems like there's new places all the time.
Mhm.
And I think there's I think the city kind of really has adopted craft beer. You've had places like Goose Island that are historically whatever.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I think even with Half Acre being something that's tried and true, very well received. What is it, Balmoral? What is there's a neighborhood up by you past I think the other area.
Oh, Andersonville?
Yeah, just right above there. That they're Half Acre.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And you were busy the first time I went out doing whatever. And I went. I would get.
I blacked out of some breweries up there.
And I looked at Half Acre. On here is the show for the kids. I always say now.
Got some work to do.
But I went to Half Acre, and I was just gonna go to one or two other spots. But there are so many breweries in that neighborhood that I'm trying to figure out my way back. And each other by goes, Tyler.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
goodness.
so definitely a place that I recommend because I think I don't know about you, Harry, what you think about when you think about Chicago big beer, but I think most people think Goose Island. They might think Half Acre, but outside of that, Three Floyds.
Three Floyds, which is like just in
Yeah.
in the state.
Right. It's in a different state, but it's like right out of like Chicago.
Yeah, it's like Gary, which is like Chicago.
We don't talk about it. But would you know any other like breweries outside of those that we just mentioned?
No.
No.
I think
Those that we just mentioned?
no.
No.
I think I can only think of Goose that I've had from Chicago specifically. Is Goose owned by InBev? I forget.
I forget too.
Oh, that's a great question. They surely act like
They,
it.
they seem like they are.
Yeah.
Talk about underwhelming.
I would say
Festivity.
Yeah, so that was the other one that we went to that was close to the beer.
Yes.
We went to Goose Island, and they're owned by InBev. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's my next rule too.
Yeah, sure.
Terrible.
So unfortunately, we can't. We can't, but we couldn't. Yeah, no, we can't. We couldn't find any beers that represent like the Virginia area. But did you want to kind of talk a little bit about Virginia and craft beer as I go find our next beer?
Sure. I've had kind of a dry year as far as beer goes. It just hasn't been something that I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna spend money that should go to rent and food on beer. That's not to say that I haven't had any.
Mm-hmm.
There's I want to say it's a little bit like follow the trend. There's a lot of hazy, juicy, those kind of IPAs. Smart Mouth. I mean, they're good, but it's a trendy thing.
Yeah.
Something I had. They have locally in that part of Virginia. It's like what's big there? Peanuts.
I didn't know that.
Oysters.
Yeah, there's a. I've never seen an oyster stout before in my life before I moved there. That's one thing they have. I've not tried it yet. They also have. There's a brewery in Suffolk, Mansfield. They make a beer with peanuts made with a special process of roasted peanuts. What's it called? Brown ale, something like that.
That sounds amazing.
I should have brought some up here. I'm sorry, guys.
Damn.
Now we just have to come down.
Good. I'm coming down.
We'll do a nice little
Coming
like.
down in January.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's soon.
Yeah. Very soon.
Bring back some
Bring
beer
some
now.
beer, yeah. But I would love to do like a little like tour of that area and like really get to experience some of that because it does sound like it has a very, when you think of Virginia, at least for me, I think of places like the Vale, like the Answer, like Richmond, obviously being like a really big hub.
Hardywood and Ale Works.
Yeah. Star Hill Barn or whatever.
Starville.
Yeah. Was a Star Hill Brewery. Yeah.
Same difference.
Yeah. They ended up being a really good brewery with like some really great beers on it, but a very like welcoming and very inclusive.
I think sometimes it has to do with like which specific part you're in. Like if you're in Virginia Beach, I mean it's very white.
Yeah.
So it's very, very trendy type beer. If you were to go into maybe the place that aren't quite as white, you might find more berry stuff.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely seems like an interesting beer community that, from what I see, and I think historically looking back at Virginia, like boom, some really early adopting like companies that like really set trends for what we now know as like craft beer, like icons and giants.
Because there's a lot of old places that are like nationally known out of Virginia, actually. But other than those couple of places, I have no idea about those things.
I'd love to explore.
And the next year, I'm sure I'll have tried a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'll get try an oyster beer and I'll get back to you guys.
Yeah, I've actually had an oyster stout. It's from a place in Baltimore, maybe.
You
I think so.
I feel like that also makes
That makes
sense.
sense.
Brian?
It's not. It's not.
No.
I mean, it's not.
It's brinier than beer, but
If it's just like a straight up oyster stout, like it's gonna have just a little undertone of brininess to really balance out, the normal stout flavor. I think it's like a really well balanced beer. It's kind of like it's less intense than getting like a pickle beer, which you gotta kind of be.
You gotta be a pickle person.
You don't have to be an oyster person to like an oyster stout.
I don't see what the big deal is. Still,
Yeah, you want
Man,
a little bit.
I think when you talk about like barriers and entries, when we talk about barriers and entry in craft beer, which is largely what we like discussed, I think you brought up a really good point, Harry. It's just like when there are other things in life that take more of a precedence than beer, and it's between like, well, do I have to spend the money here or there?
Yeah.
I think that's what's made craft beers, definitely in certain communities,
Yeah.
so much harder to get into. And so, especially in a city like New York, I feel like the disparity kind of hits.
I think there's a perception of craft beer being like an expense. I mean, yeah, it's money that you might not normally otherwise spend. But if you're buying local, and these people are buying local here, right?
Yeah.
It's really not much more than going out and getting a PBR.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
We've discussed that where it's like for the amount of PBRs that you're going to consume, two year maybe
Like to
not
get you feeling
the same.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're drinking just to get to a spot, like craft beer's still more bang for your buck, I think.
Yeah.
And it just offers more flavor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more flavor.
It's like eating the calories in a cheeseburger or like eating the calories of some other trash thing. Like, I'm gonna eat the calories, I'm gonna enjoy the freaking thing that I'm eating.
You put salt and
Is that a good
pepper.
metaphor?
That's right.
You put salt and pepper on it. Why not also put thyme and paprika and stuff?
Season that shit.
Yeah.
Don't give me the salt and pepper beer. Give me the like.
Yeah.
Oh, but
But
the
unseasoned
surf and turf beers were garbanzo beans.
The surf and turf beer?
There was a surf and a turf.
Oh, okay.
Two beers. The surf was made with like shellfish shells.
Where was this at?
I got it at like one of the places around, like one of the bottle shops around here, like years ago. I had it on the episode.
did?
This is back in like the during
I
times.
think we purged
Yeah.
it out.
During times plus a game.
Yeah, it was awful. And the other one was made with like beef jerky or some bullshit to be the turf, and it was awful. Both of them sucked. Don't know.
So they use dehydrated.
They used
They dehydrated the
They
meat to
used
rehydrate it.
they used scrapple in that one Dogfish Head beer, didn't they?
Ooh,
The beer from-
I love
See,
that.
that's
Don't you love
like-
I'm
I love
not-
scrapple.
I'm not a scrapple
Pennsylvania.
person. No.
You're a hater.
I'm a scrapple person. I love it. Yeah.
Scrapple girly.
What's to talk about?
Hashtag Scrapple Girly.
But talking about the like price point behind beer too, New York.
Yeah.
I would like to like
different.
talk a little bit about like craft beer in New York because I think it has a really good culture, but it's just again just like anything in New York, is it even more out of reach?
New York's just out of reach.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
To
Like,
New York.
And I will be pouring a beer from other half.
from other stuff. And like, I think the two things I want to say about New York, like one, like everybody expects it in Brooklyn. I think the two things I want to say about New York, like one, like everybody expects it in Brooklyn, right? Like I feel like
Yeah.
that's where it started, like Brooklyn breweries there, like that's, you expect it there. And there's amazing breweries in Brooklyn. Having drank my way through New York City, I feel like if I'm gonna say something about New York, like I want to shed a little bit of light on Queens, which people don't really do, and maybe they should.
Blessed be.
Because Long Island City and like Queensbridge and Sunnyside, like those areas, they have amazing breweries as well as beer projects, like Big Alice Brewing and like the LIC Beer Project. Like these are all breweries that have like your small like experimental batches and things like that that nobody really talks about. So I feel like New York is like they have kind of something for everyone, and like the Brooklyn breweries and the Bronx breweries of the world, but they also have a lot of that experimental stuff beyond other half. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like Big Alice and some of these places in Long Island City. And then I would have to give a little shout out to City Beer on 39th and 3rd, because City Beer is like one of the coolest, like, I would say like opportunities to dip your toes into craft beer while living in like Midtown Manhattan, right? Like it's a beer shop, a bottle shop, I guess, that opened up shortly, like let's call it the tail end of the during times or tail end of a bar that they serve craft beers in as well, but an excellent, phenomenal bottle shop of like beers from around the world. And I feel like that's one of the only spots that I've seen, at least in like the Midtown East area of New York City, that you could go and get like a really unique 4-pack. Now, you are going to pay like $50 for that 4-pack.
I remember paying like $8.
You remember that incorrectly.
Mercy.
But the thing
different.
is, like, you can't, like, you would pay that price anywhere for
Sure.
like a unique craft beer.
Exactly, and like for like
It
the
is
remember the nacho
expensive.
series of
Oh, yeah,
beers
the
and stuff like
nachos,
that.
yeah.
Like they had all of them, right? Like
Those orange cat, fat cat.
Yeah. exactly, and like that, those are unique beers. Like if you found them anywhere, like one, it's really cool that they're in this place that was around the corner from my apartment. But two, you would pay, $12, $15 a can for that.
What I will say specifically about this place as well, but I know there's other places in New York that have the opportunity, and I think it's because of New York being what New York is. You go to certain places, you get your traditional variety of what they have to offer, whatever like the local distributors
Distributed bibbies.
You're trying to speak.
whatever that local distributor has to offer, like you have. But this place itself had crowns and pops, like
True, like things we had not been able to find, really, like
Nowhere
truly have
else.
not been able
Yeah.
to find in a distributor.
Mm.
That, and I feel like a lot of the breweries, like speaking for like, Manhattan for a second, a lot of the breweries like touch really lean into the vibes, right? I remember you guys talked about that on one episode, like having good beer, like having good vibes and like what you appeal to. And like a lot, like think of Tortured Crown, for example.
Crown's crazy.
This is a beautiful beer brewery, but they also do beer really well.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
I think one of the challenges of like beer in New York is that like you kind of have to have a lot of different things just because there's a lot of diversity in that city, right? And so I at least haven't found like niche things. I found like places that kind of have something for everyone, but they still do these things really well.
Mhm.
That's my take.
That was a quick synopsis of New York beer experience.
You'll
Love it.
New York was really good.
Coney Island had a good Oktoberfest.
Coney Island has a fun brewery. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in a minor league baseball stadium, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And their Oktoberfest was top notch.
That's a good place to go when it's too hot on Coney Island. Just like go off to the brewery and hang out. And they have a little like library nook in that brewery.
That's true, yes.
More silent areas and breweries.
Dude, actually, yeah, make breweries more like coffee shops.
That's what I need.
A brewery coffee shop.
Sell me a plant in there, like Dancing Gnome, and I'd be very happy for it.
Plus,
That's true. That's very.
little crying corner.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's just.
Little sip and crying.
I'm gonna coffee, that's weird.
sensory deprivation.
All right, let's talk about this beer from Other Half, which is just a huge giant now that was once a small brewery in Brooklyn. Hazy Imperial IPA brewed with a hand-selected blend of hops, giving notes of lychee, sweet orange, strawberry, and pine needles.
What did you just pronounce?
Lychee.
Okay.
It's Asian.
Lychee, like leche, but
Asian, my friend.
Yeah. Words are escaping me today. Escaping.
What an espresso.
Your mother would be disappointed.
She thinks there's a difference in pour and pour. Gouda is the name. What do we think of it?
Well, it's not all that good.
That's pretty good, huh?
They smoked this Gouda.
You're not a big fan of the style, though, right?
Huh?
It was a good job.
Okay. Okay.
I was, but I love this. 4.5.
This is
Pretty good.
another half beer. I could have told you without looking at this label or Tyler reading this that was going to be a double dry hop. And lychee, okay, maybe not lychee, but
Lychee.
yeah,
I believe-
yeah, but that's right. It's not lychee. It was lychee.
The French brewery.
Sweet orange, strawberry, pine needles. I bet you that's on half their. My thing with other half.
Yeah, if it wasn't another half beer.
Oh, it's good. It's a 4.
Oh.
But
I take it.
everything they do is a 4
That's
of the same type of beer, and that's where it's like.
It's the Drake of craft beer.
It is the Drake of craft beer. It's the Drake of craft beer.
They're stealing the flows. And lines?
That's right.
Hey, they're good.
That's right. You heard it here.
They
It's
got
the same
ghost
thing,
hoppers.
just repurposed.
They got ghost hoppers hopping their beers full.
Ghost hoppers.
This
Stop it.
I don't even.
This is good. This is good. This is the best.
This is good.
I've had this style in a while. It's 425.
There we go. Anybody else have any hot takes on this before I go get another beer?
You got that one. Good job.
I think she's good. That's it.
Alright, we're gonna
That's
wrap this up.
I mean, I'm not getting the name. That's the only thing.
Well,
Okay,
the other
how about other half names, because they never make sense to me.
They never make
I'll be back when I get them.
Broccoli, they have the whole broccoli
They have
series.
broccoli. They have Mylar bags. 11-pound Mylar.
Well,
Good
because
crap.
dainty stuff comes in Mylar bags, isn't that the point of it?
No, it's not. The whole point of it is
Tell
nothing.
me. Oh,
I don't know anything about Mylar.
because I thought you were really gonna tell me.
There's no point. There's no point to it. Nothing. Like, read one of their labels for any one of their random, because they have a broccoli, they have a cauliflower, they have a broccoli and cauliflower, they have a cheddar, they have a broccoli.
I don't know about you, but I don't want a beer that.
They have one with a glisten.
They don't
on it,
taste
don't
like any of. They all taste like this.
Whoa!
That's what I'm
I
saying.
get it.
You got it?
Yeah.
He doesn't get it.
Can you explain it to us?
What does he get?
Gouda. G. Giving. O. Of. U. Etc.
What?
What kind of bullshit is this guy?
That bullshit on me.
I was hoping no one would ask a follow-up.
I will though say, Harry,
And
like,
let's have
if
this.
you want this style,
Yeah.
and you see this beer, just get it, because it will be
It will
good.
satisfy that.
It will be this every time. Slightly different, maybe, but it's
You put it a really good way, like satisfy that craving. I remember during the years going and lining up at the Brooklyn location and then popping it in your trunk because you had this craving for like a dry hopped IPA, and that was the place to go and get it, and they just happened to have a really good system during COVID.
Did you get some of this?
Good stuff.
Excuse me.
Good stuff, damn it. I keep missing an opportunity.
It really is good
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
They had a
This was
like
beer.
prickly pear beer that was actually phenomenal.
I also like the one with the clouds on it, I forget the names though.
class.
But
There's a
I
dust, diamond dust one.
Yeah, the with pink clouds.
will say
Yes,
this for
that one,
them.
yes.
It's other half. You see a IPA,
That's what they're having.
and if you're in the mood for it, that it's a perfect beer. It's not going to really disappoint. But when you start branching out of that, they've done some beers pretty well.
They've got some stouts and some barrel aged stuff. That's okay. They did do it was either like a pale ale or like a light lager type beer, and that wasn't bad either. But like they're kind of like New Trail in that like New Trail is like they never make the same. They had like 4 or 5 different beers that they always have, and then there's like 300 different beers. Like every time you see it's a new beer, and they all their stuff is hazy IPAs. So it's the same
So
type
like a
of
new beer, but like a variation of the same style.
It's exactly like other half.
I will say, love other half, always have for a very long time. Hate the rice lager that they attempted. What are you doing?
I
We bought
was
one.
counting wrong. I was like, why are there
Yeah.
only 3
Yeah, there's
cans?
another can somewhere.
We did.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I was just realizing that for at least
You're like broken.
for the least no, it's okay.
Okay.
For the 3 cans that we had here, there's actually a theme here. It's Philadelphia Association, right? Because we have a Philly Brewing Company. Other half has a Philly location. This Von Trapp and Human Robot collaboration has Philadelphia as well. And so while we're traveling to Vermont, which is another area of like traditional, like really good craft beer, when you're thinking about Treehouse, you're thinking about Trillium in terms of the Northeast New England region. We went from talking about other half as a brewery that's good, but kind of like one-dimensional, has their lane and they stick to it. We're talking about Two Locals, which is very new to the game. We're talking about now Human Robot. It's been there for a little bit and just does the thing really freaking well. When you see it do an IPA, it's usually pretty good, but they like to go with some of those traditional styles. It's like Roush beers and Oktoberfest beers, even
Check beers.
Pilsners, So what we're going to be drinking right now is this collaboration which we've had on cask.
We had it at Meeting House,
Yeah,
right?
Meeting House.
Meeting
We had it-
House,
Yeah, we had it on cask.
which was delicious. We
Yeah.
had like 3 of them.
But this is
3 casks.
this is their Czech style pale lager. So let's give it a go. All right. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Chris, this is empty glass. Can you drink it already?
Yeah. Cheers.
Isn't that bad luck to cheers with like an empty glass?
Is that a water?
Oh, well.
Water. Yeah.
I mean,
Technically yourself.
It's delicious.
It's good. It's light.
I won't
It's
say
fast.
Yeah.
on this show.
So this is actually better. I don't think I would normally say this because I don't really tend to like cask beer. But this was better than cask.
This
Here's
is
the
better
thing,
than
something like this could hold the cask well because like the grain, the yeast, like a Czech lager, I think
So good.
is so distinct
Mm-hmm.
that it can hold up to like casking. If you were to cask like even an IPA, because like if you cask like an IPA, then the hops are kind of clashing with the tartness of it, but like you kind of lose some of the kind of punch of the hop in a cask. Where something like a lager, particularly like a German or a Czech lager, that has a very distinct yeast flavor. I mean, that's going to be right up in there with kind of like that wild yeasty taste that you're going to get in a cask. And so I think this
That was very well done.
Yeah, the cask was good.
That's all I had.
That's all I had.
Cask was better.
Damn, the cask was better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that
is good though.
that's a fair point what you're talking about, like this in the cask versus an IPA, because I think what we had was an IPA in the cask at Race Street Cafe.
No.
I had a Love
Which
City
is a weird
lager.
thing to get on a cask.
Yeah, it was a
In
Love City
person.
lager in a cask.
But that's an American style lager.
Yeah.
Exactly.
American.
So it's not like complex enough, right?
Yeah.
So
you, need
yeah,
something,
I agree.
you need something that's more complex
And
on cask.
everything that Meeting House had that day was they had
Phenomenal.
they had 8 beers.
They had this a different day.
Yeah, on cask. Oh, that was a different one.
They had 8 beers?
On
Yeah,
cask.
for Boxing Day,
How did you do that?
They had individual like things.
little casks.
It was wonderful.
For Boxing Day.
As a wrap up, one, we'd love to hear what you guys think about the beer. I don't know if you brought it up. It's good.
Quite nice.
Quite nice.
That's like a
Yeah.
like
Refreshing.
decent.
To wrap up the show, I thought it would be, I think we're all at different levels of our craft beer experience, but from what we have experienced, where do you see opportunities in craft beer to be, obviously the focus of the show is more inclusive, whether that is for, minorities, women, how you identify as anything, right? Like, how do you make craft beer more inclusive to that? So where do we see opportunities for craft beer going forward in that regard? But just in terms of the experience, or where do you see opportunity? Essentially, I think I proposed this as like a SWOT analysis on craft beer earlier. And we talked about some of the strengths and weaknesses that these businesses have already, but what really are the opportunities going forward for craft beer?
Something for me that comes to mind is, I think it's almost like when you think about high level fashion brands, right? There's this idea of like exclusivity, but you have certain brands that were like, how can we have like that one item that can bring people into the group? And I think for me, like I've been to some breweries, and again, like for me, that the dark lager, like the smokiness of it, like that's not for me. So if I were to go to a brewery where that's majority of their things, like I would be like, okay, so craft beer just isn't for me.
Right.
Versus, I think a lot of the places that do craft brewery very well, there's a wide array, and I feel like there needs to be that entry level like craft beer, the one that is like clean and palatable, and like whether that's like nice and fruity or maybe a little hoppier for people that like hop. Those like the 10 that people are here for, but like have 1 or 2 for people that are like trying to get into it, right? There has to be an opportunity for people to gauge and like experiment in a place that feels comfortable.
100% agree. We've talked about it before. Like we joked about it. So you need that gateway beer.
Yeah,
You
honestly. Especially when you're paying that much money, you know?
Facts.
Right.
The first craft beer you give to somebody, you're not going to want it to be like a bourbon barrel aged stout or something.
Right.
But I think the problem,
Unless you're me.
That's what you wanted.
That kind of freak me out.
but it's like I think that's kind of the problem with like the community sometimes. When you have a community of people who are dedicated to the craft.
Obsessed.
You know what I mean? That's kind of where you get it's just like a group or a fan of like an underground artist or an underground group. Like they're like, oh, you need to. Why don't you like this? Why? It's like, well, maybe they've never experienced that before, and not everyone can just like something like that. Maybe they just need to get kind of acclimated with something in the middle, and then they can start to appreciate or understand what the artist over there is trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the same with beer.
And how many of us here are first beer with Yingling? Like, at least half of us.
Yeah.
And you ain't one.
So they won against the Cardinals, and my dad went.
Super Bowl! What a sentimental, such a sentimental moment.
I will never forget it.
If that was somebody's first beer and they really liked it, you might want to suggest something in that same vein.
Right. And I think, again, talking about like what's the opportunity for like something that's palatable, when you think about the beers that we grew up seeing people drink, you're talking about Corona, you're talking about Coors, Miller, it's light, palatable beers. And that's what we talk about. So how do you do that but like better? And I think that's what this Lofa Lager did really well. It's just like, oh, let's take Miller, and not even just Miller Light, but like Miller High Life, which is already more palatable than Miller.
Yeah.
And saying, well, let's take that and even elevate it further.
When did we get the Four Loko collab, though?
Remain.
Come on, here we
Four Loko. We get
What kind of shot?
Bugway.
Did you have any thoughts about opportunities for craft beer to just?
For me, I feel like I have this conversation with you all the time, and you kind of give me a little bit of side eye. But like, there's so many interesting flavors out there that live in different cultures, right? And like we talk a lot about like black brewers and like black ownership in the craft beer space, but like the fact remains that that's true for Latinas too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are beautiful like Caribbean flavors and Spanish flavors out there, for example, that are not used in beers, but that are opportunities to be used in beers. And so my perspective is probably a little bit of a narrow one in that I would love to see more passion fruit beers, for example, or more pastry stouts, like things like that, to kind of bring in this culture that truly doesn't really feel represented and doesn't really have a place in craft beer as it stands today, which is my culture. You give me some side eye sometimes. You're like, no, we gotta look at this recipe book. We'll see. We'll talk.
Yeah, but I agree. No, I definitely.
I'll just be in a corner brewing my little Agos from the city stout, calling it a day.
Good.
Yeah.
And we'll share.
Yeah, and for me, I think what it comes down to a lot is everything that we said here has to happen. There has to be more people involved in it happening with who's actually making the decision of this is the beer that we're going after. You know, how do we bring more perspectives here? And then just not thinking about what's behind the bar, but then what's on the other side of the bar, and going back to what that experience is like. You know, we have a really interesting like dynamic sitting right here because what might be
right here.
like,
When you think craft beer, you think.
So we have the whole spectrum. So like for
You're not wearing plaid, so.
okay.
It's still flannel though. It still counts.
So for what
Green, I see it.
so for what might be comfortable for you to walk into and what might be uncomfortable for you is the fact that you grew up with us in this like what Red and High looked like. So it actually might not be comfortable for you, but what looking at you, you're the like vision of who's walking into a craft
That's
like
true.
brewery versus like what maybe even like what Chris and I are experiencing versus what you're
The big
experiencing.
black man with the choker.
And then to even drop that further and then go over to you, like every one of us has like a different expectation or a different comfort level going into a place, and how do you really make it intentional to make sure that you feel comfortable, but so do you, and so do us, and so do you, because I think it's a lot of times it's whoever is creating the beer envisions this place that it's like I just want to have a brewery that I feel comfortable going into and stop their thought process.
Yeah.
So how do we? Where's the opportunity
Think outside
to
of
change
ourselves, yeah. Think outside of ourselves and create different things that are interesting, but that are actually tributes to others, and allow them to come in, and not just be something that's kind of like a knockoff. Like actually try to get input, try to do as much research on it as possible, and make sure you're doing the whatever you're trying to go for justice.
Give it some respect.
Facts.
Put some respect
Put
on
some
this
respect.
name.
Yeah. So that's the new name of it. Put some respect on that. That's the new name of the episode.
There
I'm
you
just
go.
gonna go back and change it.
Not
What did you name it before? Something crazy.
ABP Holiday episode.
Lychee libation.
Lychee.
Lychee but in French. That's the subtext.
I want to thank everybody for being willing to sit down, have this conversation kind of impromptu. If you guys have anything else that you would like to share, this is the moment to now forever hold your peace.
I was wondering if the pastry stuff coming soon. How many no IPA?
Yeah.
Ooh, right?
Yeah.
Just saying.
That's great.
Wow. Consider that for free.
Blessed be.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next year.
Peace.
Thank you for watching Outside the Blast.
All right, somebody needs a drum in Chicago. Next.
We